Welcome to episode 3, season 2 of Education, a Clusterfuck in Need of Repair. This episode is entitled Good, Bad, or Indifferent. Who are we making in schools? Before we start, I'd like to emphasize that all ideas presented in this podcast are my own and do not reflect the thoughts, opinions, or positions of my employer, Emerson College, its programs, or its representatives. I'm taking it as a given that we, as teachers, have an obligation to do our best to help the students in our care develop some sense of self and some habits of mind that will inform their lives and our society moving forward. See that knife? It's cutting both ways, always. There is no agreed upon good or bad. So unless you're prepared to say that good and bad are defined by whoever has the power, these things are moving targets. Teach the good. Help students produce something better. Don't give in to despair. Demand hope and give them hope. This episode is entitled Good, Bad, or Indifferent. Who are we making in schools? But before I get into it, a brief detour. A detour, I hear you cry. We don't even know what the episode is about. What is wrong with you? Well, let's face it, plenty. But you know how I roll. So anyway, I have a wicked intellectual crush on this academic named Michael Apple, who wrote a book called Education and Power in 1970. And even though he's pretty old and looks kind of grumpy, he has such a delicious mind that I can't resist him. For example, in 1970, he more or less predicted the mess that would become No Child Left Behind. I know, prophetic. Okay, back to the episode. Well, Michael, I call him Michael, even though we've never met because, well, I have a thing for him, said, schools both produce and reproduce society. Schools both produce and reproduce society. I bring this up not because I have a crush on him and look for any opportunity to share his yummy ideas. That would be an abuse of my podcast. But because in my many years of education, I've never felt as grim about the possibility that we're reproducing our society as I do right now. In a world which, let's face it, has not reflected the best of humankind for quite a while, we have really reached a low point. In true imperialistic fashion, we have returned to might makes right. Money is power, and if we want something, we can take it. No matter who owns it. Thanks for the oil, Venezuela. Or who we have to kill to get it. Time for regime change, Iran. And the moral foundations of our society have dissolved, leaving us in a swampy mess in which lies and truth are of equal moral value. Killing others is an acceptable expression of disagreement. And the kidnapping and deportation of adults and children is an ongoing fact of life. What the fuck? But I'm not going to talk about that. We know about that. This is a podcast about education, and my interest lies in what we're going to do about that. Will we reproduce this society and normalize these dynamics for our students? And if repulsed by the behavior of those with money who are currently steering the ship, disgusted by the pedophilia, the terrorizing of children, the murder of protesters, the venality of our elected officials, we are determined not to reproduce it, but to produce something better, kinder, more responsive to the needs of all people. Will we teach children that there's a better way and help them develop the skills to find it? It seems simple to say yes. Of course, yes. Who in their right mind would want more of this? But it's not so easy as teachers in classroom are discovering. When you need to deal with the daily trauma of ICE raids, children seeing their classmates disappear, of school shootings, it can be difficult to figure out how to deal with the often terrible truths that are an ongoing part of children's lives. Plus, there's a second truism standing in our way. We educate for a market economy. Let that sink in. We educate for a market economy. This is true of every society, from tribal societies living in the rainforest to the most highly advanced technological societies. We educate our citizens or members to fill the roles in society that must be filled in order for the society or country or tribe to continue and to thrive. So whether the life skills revolve around hunting and gathering to fill basic needs for food, shelter, and water, or whether they involve becoming computer literate, learning to program, and achieving financial success that helps support society as a whole with one's tax dollars, the rule is the same. And in America, we try to predict the potential needs of society 20 years out to guide us in how we educate kids from kindergarten on, which is part of how we ended up with the disaster that is No Child Left Behind, but that's an earlier episode. And in the history of public education, that has included a focus on educating young people to become what we like to call good citizens. So, what are we educating kids for 20 years from now? With AI in the mix, it's anybody's guess. Which jobs will still exist and which won't? You tell me. And how about green energy jobs? It was looking good for those until about a year ago. Are those dead now? And what will replace them? And for kids in public schools, should we be preparing them to be the metaphorical foot soldiers of whoever is running things, while we prepare private school students to be overlords, metaphorical generals, CEOs and CFOs and senators? What's the plan, man? And what is a good citizen now? Whatever the president says? Someone who loves their country and supports it no matter what? Who believes that this is democracy? It's not, by the way. Someone who has enough money to do whatever the fuck they want? There are a lot of difficult questions and damn few answers. I find that I have two choices. One, avoid, which involves doing a lot of Wordle and spending my days relentlessly watching shows and movies in which right prevails against all odds. Or two, simplify. Remember the key facts that are inescapable. One, we have a lot of kids to educate. That hasn't changed. Two, as they always have, teachers are the front line in deciding how to do that. And three, we're making people in our classrooms, as we always have. And those people will grow up to engage in the world, engage as leaders, as change agents, engage as good citizens or bad, as humanitarians or barbarians. But they will shape the world. I have a card posted outside my office door that says, "This is your world. Shape it or someone else will." As teachers, we have the good fortune to get to influence those little change agents, those citizens, those shapers of the future. So I spent some time considering what we should be doing in our best interest and in theirs. Do we invest them in the good to produce a better society? In the bad, so they don't get devoured by the society they'll likely inherit? Or do we give in to indifference, throwing up our hands and letting the chips fall where they may? It's tempting. What follows is a brief discussion of these three options. In discussing them, I'll rely on three bodies of theory: virtue ethics, which is one of the oldest and most widely studied branches of philosophy, Kohlberg's stages of moral development, and Carol Gilligan's ethics of care. First, virtue ethics, featuring Aristotle and Plato. Are these grumpy old liberals like Michael Apple? No! These are your salt of the earth, unimpeachable philosophers, the guys we can trust. The guys quoted by liberals and conservatives alike. So about 2,500 years ago, these trustworthy guys worked on defining virtue, on identifying the critical aspects of the good and how to get there, and others have developed these ideas since. Basically, virtue ethics emphasizes the importance of cultivating moral character and living an ethical life, rather than following rules and laws. Plato, in particular, advocated the importance of self-control and education in making this happen. Education, folks, like what happens in schools. Aristotle added the concept of habituation, the constant repetition of ethical choices and habits, as a key factor in shaping a person's character. Virtue ethics have significant implications for moral decision-making because it encourages individuals to focus on their own character traits and the type of person they strive to be. Rather than relying on a set of rules or an external source of authority, virtue ethics emphasizes that individuals should strive to develop their moral character through education and reflection. Now, before you assume this is a liberal trick on my part to cherry-pick philosophers I like, remember, these guys weren't defining a good that we'd necessarily embrace. Aristotle was pro-slavery and deeply misogynistic. Plato was an elitist who advocated rigid class structures, totalitarianism, and censorship. Geez, Bethany, I hear you cry. Why are you harshing my buzz? This was going so well. I know, I'm sorry. But the knife cuts both ways. Always. Always. When what one person considers virtuous, like class equality, economic equity, religious freedom, like me and Michael, is not necessarily in line with the values of the other side of the political coin. Survival of the fittest, Christian values, economic relativism. That's what makes this so tricky. How do we agree on what constitutes the good? But the thing I think we can choose to agree on is the importance of education as a site for self-reflection and the opportunity to develop students' character traits and the type of person they strive to be. If we, as educators, choose to give them that opportunity to encourage that exploration of the world and themselves. Because if we don't, they'll develop those traits in less thoughtful ways, in hours spent on their phones, listening to influencers, scrolling Instagram and TikTok videos. And I don't think I need to detail what constitutes virtue on those sites. So I'm taking it as a given that we, as teachers, have an obligation to do our best to help the students in our care develop some sense of self and some habits of mind that will become habituated and inform their lives and our society moving forward. Just saying. But what constitutes the bad? What possible argument could be made for leaning in that direction? For that, we turn to Lawrence Kohlberg and his stages of moral development. Again, this theory is a widely accepted and embraced idea of how morality develops in children. And as with many theories, I have some questions, but I'll get to those later. First, an overview. Kohlberg created a hierarchy of moral reasoning based on observation and research. He identifies 6 stages divided into 3 levels. The first, the pre-conventional level, is identified as a childhood stage, though one might argue that they know adults who are trapped at that stage, but that's for another broadcast. Stage 1, where decisions are based primarily on self-interest and avoiding punishment. I won't poke my brother with a fork because I get in trouble with my parents. Stage 2, self-interest orientation, personal benefit. Like, if I resist that temptation, I might get a reward for helping maintain peace in the house. Yay, a cookie! The second group is the conventional level. Theoretically, adolescents and adults, in which decisions are guided by social expectations, relationships, laws, and societal order. So stage 3, this is about interpersonal accord and conformity, meeting social expectations. For example, a teenager agrees to volunteer because friends view volunteering positively. I honestly don't know where those teenagers live, but not around me. Stage 4, authority and maintaining social order, obeying laws to keep things moving. For example, an adult decides not to set off fireworks in front of his house because it's against the law and might start a fire. The highest level is the post-conventional level. This is identified as advanced moral reasoning, in which decisions are guided by higher ethical principles and individual rights beyond societal laws. For example, stage 5, social contract and individual rights, which is social agreements and prioritizing human life. For example, the citizens in Minnesota who engage in peaceful protest to advocate for human rights despite potential legal consequences. And stage 6, universal ethical principles, which is focused on justice and human rights. For example, a group of Minnesotans who help a cornered immigrant escape ice in sub-zero weather, recognizing that the greater good, keeping him from freezing to death, outweighs their personal risk of also freezing to death. Some examples of ethical principles that fall into that level are equal human rights, justice for all, nonviolence, respect for human dignity and worth. Wait, I hear you cry. This is just more of your liberal mumbo-jumbo disguised as rational thought. You are deceitful. You are trapped at stage 2, self-interest, orientation, and personal benefit. J'accuse! Well, that is hurtful and wrong. That's right, it's wrong. Because once you get to the second level, the conventional level, which is theoretically adolescents and adults, a category I fall into, what constitutes social expectations, relationships, laws, and societal order are largely defined by the individual and their environment. So if volunteering is not the social expectation of your group, maybe drinking under the bridge is, or having underage sex, or smoking behind the school. And those laws, that too is negotiable. Like my neighbor, who sets off a huge volume of fireworks on the 4th of July. A huge volume. Is that against the law? Yes. Do the police stop him? No. Why? For 2 reasons. They see it as a public service. Our town doesn't do town fireworks, so everyone gets to enjoy these. Plus, they're friends with him. But anyway. So we sit outside in the dark and watch the beautiful explosions just like everyone else in town. I mean, sure, we keep a hose handy. We're not crazy. See that knife? It's cutting both ways. Always. There is no agreed upon good or bad. So unless you're prepared to say that good and bad are defined by whoever has the power, or in the United States, the money, these things are moving targets. As for ethical principles, don't get me started. Whose ethics? What principles? Do we believe that homosexuality is such an abomination that Matthew Shepard's death was justified? I don't. But I'm one among billions. Do we believe that human life is more important than immigration law? I do, but I'm one among billions. It cuts both ways. Always. So when we talk about standards of morality, we do so in an arena of such ambiguity that assigning a right or a wrong to various acts gets difficult fast. Do I know what I think is good? What I think is bad? Yes, I do. But I'm one among billions. What we need to do is help children, students, developing young adults to figure out what they believe. Do we teach them it's eat or be eaten? That feels pretty true among adults we see leading the world right now. Do we teach them that compassion for others is more important than conventional success? That's a hard sell these days. But as teachers, we have to consider the options and educate for a market economy and try to produce rather than reproduce society. No problem. We can do all that, right? Take a breath. I'm going to. But if you've listened to any other episodes of this podcast, you know where I land on these questions. Me and Michael. And Carol Gilligan, who developed what's called care ethics. Carol Gilligan is an American psychologist and ethicist who did groundbreaking work in the field of moral development and ethics. Her theory, care ethics, challenges traditional moral frameworks by emphasizing the importance of care, empathy, and interpersonal relationships in ethical decision-making. It prioritizes understanding and responding to the needs of others. Care ethics is highly contextual and relational, meaning that moral decisions are made based on the specific circumstances and the relationships involved. It recognizing the interdependence of individuals and the importance of maintaining and nurturing relationships. Okay, there you are, you aging liberal hippie. And now we're back to the good snort. Shut up! First of all, I'm not aging, I'm old. And second, care ethics can be used in teaching the bad just as easily as virtue ethics or stages of moral development can. It's not only liberals who care about others, who consider interpersonal relationships in moral decision-making, but it is a way of considering how and what we teach kids in schools, how we challenge selfish constructions and encourage higher-order thinking in helping them decide who they want to be and how they'll develop those traits. And in the 14 years, 180 days a year, 5 days a week, 7 hours a day that we have them, those choices habituate and become foundational to who and how they'll be in the world. So good, bad, or indifferent, which path do we take? It's an important question because as educators, we don't just choose for ourselves. We choose for every child we teach. Heavy, huh? This is where I stand. In my opinion, we have a moral imperative to produce the society we want, not reproduce one that we don't. We need to teach in a way that helps kids focus on the development of good character traits in order to lead a meaningful life. We need to teach the good, whatever that means, in the schools in which you teach or in your personal construction of the world. Because when you believe in the importance of what you teach, kids can smell it. They can become inspired, can become thinkers, can become educated, and can develop their own moral center as a result. The problem for me in educating for the bad is that even if teachers truly believe that they're doing the best for their students in preparing them for the world that exists, we then guarantee the perpetuation of inequity, of the self over others, of truth as unnecessary and inconvenient, and all aspects of human life as negotiable. Because the adult examples available to our young people today through the media they consume overwhelmingly lean in that direction. And the result has been increases in cyberbullying, student mental health issues, polarization of perspectives leading to emotional and physical violence, school shootings, and teachers fleeing the profession in droves. But mostly because what they learn from us in schools becomes the foundation on which all future learning is built. And we have to live with the people we make for another 60 plus years. That's a lot of reproduction. But for me, the worst choice is indifference. Nobody seems to be giving much attention to education right now in the face of pedophilia, war, militarization, immigration, violence. Who has time to care about kids and their learning? It's a struggle to remember how much it matters, even for teachers. Ouch. I'd rather teachers embrace the bad than become indifferent. Because when teachers give in to indifference in the face of unbearable cognitive and moral dissonance, they create children who are indifferent. And not caring inhibits learning. Thinking slows to a crawl. And brain research is clear. If students don't learn higher order thinking in schools, they are unlikely to develop the neural structures, the neurons, dendrites, and myelin sheathing, to be able to think in higher order ways ever. to analyze, synthesize, evaluate. And then the world belongs to whoever has the most power or money or both. And those people can be as bad as they want because the inertia that accompanies indifference will allow them to prevail, no matter what they want to do. So, teach the good. Help students produce something better. Don't give in to despair. Demand hope. And give them hope. I'm going to. If you would like to share some ways you respond to the good, the bad, and the indifferent in your teaching, I would really love to hear them. You can DM me in my Instagram account, educationclusterf_CK, or email it to me at educationclusterfck@gmail.com, and I'll share them at the next episode. I'll leave out your name if you prefer. If you can't, I get that. No hard feelings, hang in there. As always, thank you for listening. If you have time, please post a review or share this with someone you think it would be useful for. I'll talk at you in about 2 weeks or as soon as I can stop playing Wordle and watching Star Trek and get back to thinking.
J like the letter, I'm making several waves. I know the mission is same. I made a splash, now all of my passes last like running a race with Usain. I keep it coming like this a buffet. And if I'm stumbling, I'm in the graves. Never gon' fumble it, I get the bag and I run with it, gunning it, gunning it, gunning it, gunning it.